Legalizing weed seems to be sweeping across North America. In October, Canada declared weed legal, and currently 30 states in the US have some form of legalized marijuana. The drug has been thrust strongly into the mainstream consciousness, and the case for legalization is often held up as a progressive standard.
We are not going to punish people for smoking marijuana. States want to go forward and legalize it. That is their right.
Part of this stems from the racist history of the criminalization of marijuana. Drug law enforcement has heavily targeted poor black communities, and the so-called war on drugs has resulted in more black Americans under correctional control than were enslaved in 1850. Done right, legalizing weed could be a step towards dismantling this cruel system. But legalization can have complicated and often unforeseen consequences, such as which communities benefit from the new marijuana gold rush. Today, though, I want to look at an often overlooked result of this new industry: its massive environmental impact. Pot is often grouped with environmentalist because of its association with the 1960s and 70s countercultural movements, as well as its perceived naturalness. Hemp has been grown for thousands of years and has traditionally been cultivated outdoors using natural light, rainwater, and supplementing with irrigation when needed. But ever since cannabis was labeled a Schedule I drug in 1970, which put it on par with heroin, many growers escaped to the indoors as a way to avoid detection. The upside to this, at least for those growing the plant, was that cultivating pot indoors allowed growers to gain a higher level of manipulation and control of the plant. Essentially, they took the unpredictability of the weather, the sun, and the soil out of the equation, and soon were able to have a consistent product that they could market at a high price. And this indoor growing practice is now the most widely recognized method for growing pot legally and illegally. Unfortunately, growing indoor cannabis requires an enormous amount of energy. A study by the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project found that energy consumption per square foot for indoor grow operations is about 10 times that of a typical office building, a fact which an IPCC member Dr. Evan Mills corroborated in a 2012 study, where he cites that the cannabis industry accounts for 1% of the United States' total energy use. That is the equivalent energy use of 1.7 million US homes. And since that report, the weed industry has only ballooned in size. Part of the reason it takes so much energy to grow these plants lies in its lighting systems. The typical setup for weed cultivation requires HIDs, or high-intensity discharge lamps, because they are cheap to buy and give off a ton of light. But according to the news site Think Progress, these kind of lamps can raise temperatures in growing rooms by over 30 degrees Fahrenheit and are often on for 12 to 18 hours a day. So in order to keep ideal temperatures for the plants, growers install air conditioning units, dehumidifiers, and fans all over their grow rooms. All of these energy-intensive devices work to create perfect conditions for the plant to grow, but ultimately means very high emissions. Dr. Mills equates the emissions associated with producing a kilo of weed to that of driving across country 11 times in a 44-mile-per-gallon car. Considering that this industry is rapidly expanding, is there a possible solution to the massive energy requirements of growing marijuana? Legalization might provide some assistance, in that most of those who grow illegally do so in an off-the-grid manner. To hide detection, they use diesel or gas-fueled generators, which emit large amounts of carbon directly into the air. So a step towards legalization might mean access to cleaner and more energy-efficient sources. But even more importantly, with legalization and the right regulation comes access to the outdoors. As Secretary of the International Cannabis Farmers Association, Amanda Ryman points out in a lecture, sun-grown cannabis requires dramatically less energy and emissions than indoor-grown plants.
And if your identity is someone that cares about the environment, you're taking all of these other steps to protect the environment, that should carry through to your cannabis. There's really no reason for it not to.
The problem is that open-air operations are only allowed in 6 states. So current laws are keeping growers inside. But the benefits of open-air growing, such as polycultures and lower emissions, are promising. Ultimately, there is a path forward in this growing industry that can lead towards lower energy use and emissions. But it means rolling up our sleeves, digging in the dirt, and realizing the potential for free energy right outside our doorstep. Thanks so much for watching. If you're new to my channel and you liked what you just saw, go ahead and click the subscribe button down below and click the little bell next to it. My next video will be a deep dive on packaging and online shopping. Also, if you're really enjoying my videos, consider supporting the channel financially on Patreon. It helps me out a ton. Otherwise, I will see you in 2 weeks.